What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Volumen. As you can see, we are sitting in brand new couches. We ditched that old desk for these love seats. Matt picked them out.
Yep. Great couches, great aesthetic.
Let me know what you think about the couches. Somebody told me they're called love seats. We're going to find out. So today's guest, they are a author. They released their first book, The Red Flags I've Repeatedly Ignored. Her name is Brianna McCabe, and she's sitting right next. She's sitting right here, guys.
She's with us.
She's with us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm like super honored to be here.
Thank you for coming.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, the setup took a little bit longer today than usual. So we've been here for quite some time, actually.
It's been cool, like getting to chill with you guys. So I enjoyed it.
You had a lot of questions about our setup and sort of
what we do,
the process there. There's so much to unfold. I don't even know where to start, but maybe let's just start with who you are.
Yeah.
The book. Let people know that's your camera.
That's my camera. So do you want me to look at the camera? Look here.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
when you want to go into third person, you could
like The Office, Dwight. Hey guys.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you could call me Bree. By the way, I feel like we're on that personal level now.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I'm 29, turning 30 in October, and I wrote my first book. It took me 3 years. I'll dive into that. But so I'm a writer. I'm a professor. I teach at Kane University. 2 classes at max a semester. This semester only 1. I dialed it back, but it's public speaking and branding when I do the 2 classes. And then I work full time as I actually just started a new job. It's at the biggest ad agency in the world, Edelman. So I work there full time. But prior to that, I worked at a hospital, a healthcare setting, and I did corporate marketing and communications for about 7 years. But this is my baby right here. This is like the first advanced copy of my book. It took me 3 effing years to write. And I'm so proud of it. And it comes out literally in 20 days.
That's exciting.
Nice.
Yeah.
But by the time this episode's released, it will be out.
It'll be out.
So, guys,
probably releasing the day of.
yeah. So, guys, if like, subscribe, and somebody that does subscribe, we're gonna give away one of the books, right? We talked about that.
Let's
We're cool
do
with that.
it. I'm so down.
So one of you guys can win a free book, Brianna's book, Bree's book. So just all you have to do is subscribe, tell a friend.
Just let me know the name. I'll be like, I'll write a little thank you so much.
What's how about just comment red flags in the comment section?
Little emojis.
Yeah, yep, I like that.
I like that too.
That's good.
Boom.
So that's pretty cool. Why the book? What's the story there? Let's start from the beginning.
From the beginning.
From the beginning, yeah, what's
So I always wanted to be a writer. I mean, I have this crooked ass writer tattoo on my wrist, and I hate it. The type A personality in me cringes every time I look at it. But I've always wanted to write a book. I just never knew what I wanted to write about. And my friends would always joke. They'd be like, "One day you're gonna write a book about your awkward AF." Can I curse on this podcast?
Yeah, you can curse.
Okay, as you're awkward as fuck,
Oh, Andy's here with us too, by the way.
Andy with the sense.
You know what's funny?
I love him.
So go ahead, yeah, keep going.
No, what's funny? I want to hear that first.
Oh, yeah.
Andy.
So now we're 10 episodes deep or whatever. Somebody was asking the other day. They're like, "Yo, who's Andy? Where's Andy? I want to see Andy," because we always bring up his name. Andy's here, guys. Andy's live.
Andy's been here the whole time.
Andy's a real person, because I wanted to make a bit where we always reference Andy, but there's nobody behind the cameras.
Andy is
just a ghost.
one of my favorite people ever.
Andy's the reason why you're here. So shout out to Andy for bringing you on.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, we appreciate that, bro.
I'm obsessed.
Gang.
But okay, anyway, so from the beginning.
Yeah, so I always wanted to write a book, and some of my friends would, at first I dabbled, do I want to do some kind of horror, because I love Stephen King and things of that nature, which isn't out of the question, but my friends, especially my one best friend, Katie, she always jokes, she's like, your dating life and awkward sexual encounters make my day. And I'm like, well, that's embarrassing, but I feel like I got to share it to the world, right? But I was going through a really bad breakup a few years ago, and it was just, I hit rock bottom. I honestly mentally was not okay. And this person, I mean, I take accountability. I should have saw the red flags, and I should have just not even proceeded with this person. But instead, I ended up dating this person for several years, and they just broke me down more and more mentally, emotionally, very abusive. Spiritually, I felt like I had nothing, and I wasn't well, and I had to go to therapy. I was super depressed after our breakup. It was one of those relationships where it's just up and down, up and down. You make up, you break up, you have great sex, make up, break up, It was horrible. Roller coaster. So to heal, and I feel like I'm downplaying it now because I'm not in that mental space anymore, but I was really depressed. I wasn't leaving my bed. I wasn't eating. My mom was like, "What's going on with you?" I was just not okay. So I was going to therapy and I felt stripped of everything, like my dignity, my value, my worth. And my therapist is like, what's one thing that can like make you feel full again? Like, what's one thing that this man didn't strip of you? I was like, my ability to write. So she's like, all right, just like start writing your feelings. And then I just started writing a poem, and then that poem, like that stanza turned into pages turned into a chapter. And I sent it to my mom, like the first 2 chapters, which were focused preliminarily like on this specific person. And she's like, that's fucking good. And I was like, you're just saying that because you're my mom.
Right.
Like I know.
That
then,
doesn't count.
Yeah, I was like, that doesn't count. I was like, that's some bullshit. No, but I love her. Shout out to my mom. But then I started writing more. And then I started showing it to some of my professors that I have really good connections with from when I went to undergrad and graduate school. And they were like, Bree, this is like really good. Of course, I didn't really have like the structure, but then I reached out to a few publishers, and then I there was one, her name is Jen. I'm obsessed with her. Inspired Girl Enterprises. She's like a hybrid indie publisher, super dope. And she just had this vision for this book to take it to like where I thought I wanted it to be. Because at first it was going to be just a memoir, right?
Okay.
And then she's like, no offense, Brie, like, who are you? And I was like, fair enough. Like, even people like Will Smith, you can sell only X amount of books because people are a fan of you. But if you don't have a fan base, selling a memoir is like a totally different ballgame. So she's like, why don't you like turn all of your lessons and just turn it into a self-help book? I was like, bomb. Like, yeah. So we had to restructure it a little bit. But so that's kind of like the origin story of my book. And it's been like almost 3.5 years in the works. And like seeing this in the flesh is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
It looks good. I like how the presentation. I like also, obviously like you have like handwriting there too.
Yeah.
And that's your handwriting?
No, it's not. We hired a design, so it's his handwriting.
It's his handwriting.
Yeah,
Okay.
he has beautiful handwriting, and then that's supposed to be me. That little icon with
The fire?
The fire is supposed to be me because my life literally went up in flames. And then, but it's also like a double entendre where it's supposed to be like a warning sign,
like a danger.
Yeah. So I was like,
that's
hazard.
Hazard.
Yeah. I was like, it's cool.
That's cool.
Fire. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The whole concept of the that's like the genre that I read a lot is self-help.
Yeah. they're
Like
the best.
entrepreneurship, business, like that sort of stuff. But 3 years, like,
It was miserable.
yeah, I was gonna ask like how I don't know anything about writing books.
Yeah.
You're a writer, and you teach what?
Public speaking, and then I teach. It's like a branding and message development class.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why not teach like
Journalism.
Exactly, like something in that. Like, how's that come to play?
I could. So my undergraduate degree is in journalism and public relations, but then my master's is in marketing. So I feel like by proxy, and I started teaching during COVID. My first semester, I was 26. I graduated with my master's, and then Kane University hired me. Pretty sure I'm one of the youngest professors that they've ever had, which is
Congratulations.
dope. Like, it's dope.
That's congrats.
But I didn't want to be picky with the classes that they were going to give me. I'm just like, yeah, I'll take whatever. Like, if you want to, I'll take whatever. And I love the classes. So I've never expanded towards writing, but I feel like
Would you like if given the opportunity?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't shy away from it.
Okay.
But I kind of like the public speaking class.
How's that? Because
Yeah, I was gonna say, do they give you full control, or is there anything like you have to be careful about what you say? As far as like dealing with what you've talked about in the book, and then what you do as like your professionalism.
do your kids know you wrote a book?
That's the first thing. First welcome class, like obviously we go over the syllabus, but like, because I walk into class and I think a lot of the time students look at me, they're like, this girl is so young. Like, what is she doing here? So I always have to establish, and what I say in my speeches is there's ethos, logos, and pathos when you're giving a good speech. So ethos is like the ethics, your credibility. The logos is like, the logics, the facts, and then pathos is like the emotions. Those 3 things combined, according to Aristotle, make a really good speech.
Yep.
So I always want to establish my credibility. So like, who are you? Why are you teaching this class? So I always go over kind of my portfolio, my resume, and then I say like, hey guys, it's also self-plug. I'm like, I wrote a book,
Yeah.
I was like,
Shameless self-plug there.
No, I don't expect any of them to buy it, but I definitely tell them what the book's about. I tell them I have a podcast too. A few of them listen to it. Like, I go to class now, they're like, yo, that was a funny episode. I'm like, this is so awkward. I'm like, I was talking about fuck buddies with my friend Nico. Like, this is so weird. But I mean, they're all adults too, so it's not like I'm an elementary, middle school teacher. I'm a professor, so I think there's a little bit more like creative flexibility there.
Yeah. My dad's also a professor. He's done he does math. So he's
Oh my God, yes, good for him.
yeah. He's it's the universal language. Like, he learned it, he was a professor back in Ecuador, and then when he came here, you know, it wasn't like, you know, English or something where like it only works in that country. Like, so math being universal, he was able to teach, and you know, same thing. He got like his master's and everything, and he does like different universities. He's done stuff at like the high school level. Never like, I think maybe he's done elementary, but you know, he prefers, like you said, the higher ups, like these kind of like, you know, 10, 11, 12th, and then like just when you're paying for your education, because at that point it really matters, like, you know, because public school is public school, like you're supposed to go there, but like when you're actually giving an F about your education, then it becomes like they're serious. And then even amongst those kids, you have people who are serious and not so serious.
Is he teaching the you know how there's like the you have to pass this math class in order to graduate, or is he actually teaching math majors?
I don't keep up. I don't know. I feel so bad. I'm so sorry.
Poor dad.
I don't keep up. But he's such a smart guy. Like he knows everything. Like, you know, like algebra and like your calculus and like your trigonometry and like
my God.
And like we're talking like 3, 4, and 5, like all the way up.
Bless
Like
his soul. I took Calc 1 and 2 in high school and like to like place out in college, but I was like, I never want to touch numbers again. Like ever.
I remember my pre-calc days. That shit was.
Yeah. But no, so going back to your public, so I remember I took public speaking in college, and I did pretty well in it.
You have a beautiful voice, so I can assume you did. Yeah.
Thank you. But you don't get a grade off of your voice, though. You
don't.
Your
you
presentation.
actually, I have a funny story for you guys. So
I love it.
it was a public speaking class, and you know, basically the way I went to Montclair State, the way they did it was there was like 3 major or 4 major like public speaking parts that you were going to go do. I don't know what your syllabus or your teaching style is, but our teacher kind of laid it out where like one is going to be like based off of like, I don't know, like some product review or book or whatever you have to do. Another one is something that you have to like come up by yourself or whatever. And then the other 2, I don't remember. But the one was basically like you had to basically just like create like a company and then like pitch it to the class.
Oh, right.
And you know, at the time, like I was getting started sort of in my entrepreneurship journey. So I was like, well, this is perfect. Like this is like literally what like I'm doing behind the scenes when I'm not in class. And I kid you not, I came up with like the name of the company probably like either the night before or like on my way to like the actual class. Wrote nothing down.
Oh my God.
Just like I was that kid. And
did you nail it?
yeah, I did.
He made the company on the spot.
I did.
Was it this company?
No, not this company.
I was like, how forward
That was-
thinking was
That's what I was
that?
He started.
It was written before it was written.
He's like, I have an idea.
No,
Present it tomorrow.
it was like a health and wellness company. I forget what it was called. But it was something so basic. It was like just like a clean name. It was just like a 1-word name. And then I just came up with like pricing, and I explained like the reasons to why this company should exist, and like basically like, you know, you're pitching like the class and the teacher. So it was like, okay, like why it exists, what's like our mission statement, like what's our goals, like what are our sales. So it was like the sort of like play pretend, almost like you're like sort of improving a little bit, because none of these companies actually exist. But yeah, so it, you know, but my point is with other kids though, super awkward, super shy, like public speaking is like one of the most feared things in the world. So for you being like, you know, a professor and also, you guys don't like being called teachers, right? You like being called professors, like people that like.
I personally don't care, but I can. There's
people who.
There's a distinction though.
Yeah.
Like
Professor.
because to be a professor, you need to at the minimum have a master's. Not all teachers need that, so I think it comes with like a little bit of that.
It's like the doctor. It's like I'm a doctor.
Yeah,
It's like I have a PhD.
Or like even the nurses, they're like I'm an NP versus this type of
RN.
nurse. Yeah. So, but I don't.
There's levels.
I don't really care.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. So if it comes out of my, that's just me
I just think
being-
it sounds hot, like I'm a professor. You know?
But so as a professor, right? The point is, how do you like? You know, I'm sure you're getting kids of all ages, and what's that like, right? Being in the professor's seat, where it's like you know these kids are like you have like little Susie over there who's like hands in like their shirt, like just like sleeves, Ariana Grande style, just like shy, like just barely speaking. Hello guys, my name is. Yeah.
It's hard.
Like I'm just like, bruh, like I would be failing these kids.
So all right, so I'm gonna be on my teaching philosophy. As long as I see that you're trying, you're basically gonna, and you're showing up to class, and even if you're struggling, but you make me aware that like you have glossophobia, which is a fear of public speaking. Which
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's 77
Glassophobia?
glossophobia. I may not be pronouncing it right, but and it's 77% roughly of the population has this, a fear. So if you come up to me in the beginning of class and you say, hey, you know, this isn't my forte, but I can tell that you're sending me topics or little bullet points of what you want to say in a speech moving forward, and I see that you're trying, you're at least getting a B. To fail my class, you just never have to show up. Like you literally have to never show up, never submit a silly homework assignment, which are super easy. So I say that to say my class is pretty easy as long as I can tell you're putting in effort.
Right.
So is it rough sometimes, like listening to some of the speeches?
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I said no, you know, like
What's the worst one you've ever like encountered over the years? Like what's when you're just like shake my head like this person, or no bad ones really, I guess.
there hasn't been anything that's been that bad, that notably bad. There's just been ones where they stutter a lot, or I've never had somebody cry or anything or run out of the room. Thankfully,
thankfully.
you know,
Right.
yeah.
Not yet.
But I think though, and I don't want to like. I think it's a testament to the culture that I build in the classroom, where I make sure every class we start off like, tell me something great that happened over the weekend. What made you feel good about yourself? And I just want everybody to feel comfortable talking in the classroom. So hopefully I established that mentality where everybody just feels safe and secure. So I've never had that happen, but
Yeah.
I've also never had a student who's felt that petrified to speak.
What about the opposite of that, like on a confidence level? Do kids
Too
come
confident?
in? No, not even too confident. Like, I mean, it's just, do you know, like, I don't know, because from a professor perspective, right, like, just spectrums of somebody being really bad, but then there's people who are just really,
Oh,
really
there's
good.
some that are just, they crush it. I know there's some students who they don't prepare at all. I don't.
Like me.
Yeah,
This man
yeah,
right here.
yeah. Let's do the intro 5 times. No, I'm kidding. I'm not.
Yo, go.
It's your name that we butchered.
It's okay. It's okay. No, there's just some people who are, you can tell natural talent. You can just see natural talent, I think, in any walk of
Yeah.
life. And there's some students who you can just tell they
just got
stood
it.
up there, they wung it, and you're just like, that's impressive. I've
Yeah.
had a handful of students.
Do you think that comes off like with improv skill, or more of just like like they just know how to?
It could be improv skills.
Right.
And that's hard. Even me,
I think I'm more of an improver compared
Are
to
you?
a
preparer.
preparer. Yeah, and it's just like I'm half and half, which is like, you can't say like you can't do that too much, obviously.
Yeah.
But like I like to improv. I like to just be off the spot.
That's good. That's a skill. I like to prepare a little bit more.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think a 50-50 is good. Obviously having the improv skills is very good, but I think like it's like I don't know, maybe my philosophy on the whole thing is like if you know what you're talking about, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to speak on
Yeah,
it.
shouldn't
Correct.
be scared.
And that's what
Yeah.
it comes down to. Like it's just like I don't know, same thing. Like I said, for me, I do not relate to the whole like being nervous or scared of public speaking. Like because in my head, I'm just like you're literally just talking. Like you're just that.
Yeah.
There's nothing scary about that. You're just speaking. Everyone talks unless you're mute. Like everyone speaks.
some people, though, I mean, I can definitely see, even though I'm 29 and some of my students are 19, 20, 21, you can tell there's an age gap, generational difference, if you will, where they're just so glued to their phones that they kind of lose their inability to socialize.
I get that.
So I think it's definitely a barrier for them.
I get that. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But it's interesting because even Andy, I was like, Andy, what are we talking about today? And he's like, I don't know the book. And I'm like, all right, I don't got to prepare. Like, I feel comfortable. So you're right. When it's something that you feel comfortable about, I don't think you have to prepare.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I don't know. Is this considered public speaking? Is podcasting public speaking?
I mean, it's going to live on the internet forever.
In a way.
You know?
Technically, it is like public speaking.
It
At
is.
least- At least for me too. Like I look at it and be like, damn, like that's my voice. Remember we were talking about it before.
You
I was
have
like,
an amazing voice, too.
I appreciate it,
Got
but
the
I'm
DJ
still
back there.
self-conscious about like the way I sound and the way I perceive myself on camera because
Yeah.
I'm not really too comfortable with doing that, especially public speaking. So technically, this is like public speaking. The world's gonna see this eventually.
Yeah.
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 I same thing. But even that, we were talking about that before, right? Where it was like the whole people don't like their sound of their own voice or the way they look on video. It's just like,
Yeah.
that just does not faze me. I'm just like, it's just something we have to do.
That definitely
born
comes
with
with an air of like you have to have like self-love and confidence to do that though, because I'd be lying if I said that when I first started writing the book or even doing some of these videos with Andy, I was like, oh my God, that's how I look in the video. And then I was just like, shut the fuck up, Brie. Like, you look good. Like, you just gotta like kind of shake it sometimes because I do think you can harp on it if you're not confident in who you are and like what you're talking about, you know?
That's a good point. I like what you said about the self-love thing. I guess, yeah, you have to be very, like if you know who you are
Yeah.
and you know what you're about and you know what you represent and what you want to, embody and just like, you're just you in that sense. And so if you're you, like nobody can tell you otherwise. And then you could just freely be you. Otherwise you can be overly critical of like this and the other thing, my hair, my looks, whatever. I mean, and that happens to all of us, but some
Yeah.
more than others. But yeah, for me, I think recently, and I think, even just getting on camera sometimes now, it's just
Slowly,
like,
you slowly lose that fear. You get more comfortable. You try to.
Yeah, how does it
Just
feel
me,
being
you.
like behind the cameras to now being in front of the cameras? Like, was there that fear?
Yeah.
No.
Well, for me at least, yeah. I guess growing up, I could say I was a little. I wasn't like awkward, but I was just like, yeah, I would get timid sometimes to just either speak my mind or whatever. But now, like, past college, I can say I really don't care. Just if we're cool, we're cool. We talk. If we don't connect, then it is what it is. You know.
That's fire.
Yeah.
I like the the progress of all of this. So like I think naturally if you look at some of our earlier episodes, not that they're not good, but they're probably okay. I also look at it from an entertainment perspective, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, like, yeah, we're just gonna talk and we're gonna shoot the shit, but at some point I want to also kind of create it to where it is entertaining, where whether it's the subject or the person or the
Yeah.
product, like there needs to be something there that's driving like people to watch. Otherwise it's it's like all right,
It
like,
has to be digestible because
Right.
otherwise it's just going to be living there.
like
and
you
who's-
said, it's
yeah.
like who the fuck am I? Like, I'm not gonna write a book about myself. Like it's
Yeah.
like, but you're writing a self-help book. You're writing a
Yeah.
book that you can teach others to. So that's a good segue. Let's talk
Hey.
about the book there.
Okay.
How'd you come up with the name?
I am the worst. So I'm the worst with titles, like the absolute worst. And my first job ever was actually at USA Today and Asbury Park Press. And I was like a copy editor, and I would have to like come up with the headlines for like front page stories. And I was the worst at it. Like my boss was just like, come on, Bree, like get a little zest in there. And I'm like, I can't.
Spice it up.
But for some reason, like this just came to me. Like I knew I wanted to write a book about red flags. I always ignored them. It literally came.
I think
I
that
don't even
I've
know.
ignored them brings a whole different aspect to it, because I've heard, you hear red flags and then you hear from someone specific is like, these are my experiences.
Yeah.
So if this has happened to me, I hope you could learn from it and like use that to your, like, not advantage, use it to, better
benefit,
yourself.
yeah.
Better yourself, and that's always good.
And a lot of people ask me too, because you know how the red flag craze was a thing like
Yeah.
2 years ago. They're like, did that viral sensation start this?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, like I started it first. But I'm like, I hope, but no, it's okay. I really didn't. Red flag has been around forever. But the fact that, I'm able to kind of hopefully still ride that trajectory of it being a meme is great. So
I haven't read your book, but I will read it. I want to read it.
Thanks.
What's the book structure like? Like,
Yeah.
does it go through your story? Does it talk about like what red flags are and what they mean to you?
Yeah.
Like, talk to me about that. Like, what are the chapters? What's that index?
Yeah. So I guess my first question though is like, how would you guys define a red flag? Like just out of curiosity.
A red flag. I mean, what would I define a red flag
In a
as?
relationship or as another person, like
Something that's
opposite
not
gender?
something that's not healthy.
Yeah.
Not healthy.
Something that's not
Yeah.
adding value maybe to the relationship, like toxicity.
Yeah.
I would say that's a red flag. Things that like. Well, okay, so I think you would have to define. I think there's common red flags. I think globally we could say like these things are red flags, but then there's red flags that are individualized per the person.
Yeah.
And I think that goes with anything. And so,
Correct.
With that being said, these common ones are kind of like one of those things where it's like it's sort of unspoken. Like it's just like you understand. Okay, you're going into a relationship. Like you don't cheat. Like you don't lie. You don't do all
do you
these
think
things.
so? I think you're onto something, but do you think there's a delineation between a red flag and a deal breaker? Because I do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You
Okay.
could you could ignore a red flag and you could be like, okay, like that's not a deal breaker.
Correct. So
But-
what would you consider a deal breaker though? I'm just like picking your brains here because everybody has different levels,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, not to be like so boring and plain and obvious, but I think like cheating would be like
That's 1000% a deal breaker
a deal
for me.
breaker,
Yeah.
unless of course it wasn't a monogamous relationship, and we were like,
Correct.
you know what, like we are gonna introduce this, and we're cool with that. Then I would say then that in that scenario it's not. But
Like how about for you? What's a deal breaker for you?
Between me and the other person, as far as like what?
Like if you were dating somebody or in the initial stages of dating somebody, getting to know them, and then they introduce some kind of fact or tidbit about them and you were just like, oh no,
no.
like I'm not proceeding with you anymore. Like that's a definitive no, you're disqualified from the dating pool. Like
I've dealt with, I guess you could say, like daddy issues. That-
Ooh.
yeah,
that's a deal breaker for you.
certain things, because it really kind of
What kind of daddy issues?
just serious. Like father was a complete like asshole to her, and it's really like changed the other person's mindset of how they like view not me particularly,
Like
but
men in general?
Men in general.
Yeah.
So you could kind of maybe see that like you're gonna like always have this the way you think, and if like unless you really like I guess love the other person, or try to change. I'm like, no, this is like they're just always gonna be like that.
Yeah.
But I guess it's different for everybody. Yeah.
I think a deal break, like some deal breakers are outlined, and then it's going to tie back into your question. So a deal breaker for me is like out of control anger problems, like excessive substance abuse.
Those are good ones.
Yeah.
Shadiness, I would say. We don't even have to go as deep as like being like, oh my God, I caught you with somebody else.
Yeah.
I would just say like, like if you're like secretly like, it depends because, relationship, it's like, okay, like,
It's
are you
circumstantial.
talking? Are you like unofficially together? Are you together? And then like, are you together depending for how long? Is it official like a week, a month, 6 months, a year?
It's hard.
Have you not hit, if you haven't hit like a 1 year anniversary, I'm like, like I have friends that go into relationships and they move way too fast. And I'm just like, you need to slow down.
To each his own.
But to each their own, I can only
Yeah.
offer advice and that's all I can say. But
Yeah. So a red flag, I think, and you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's like, it is based on an individual's like preferences, lifestyles, philosophies on life, morals, beliefs, all of that. So like, and it's funny because like I'm a Yankee fan, but I'm not a diehard Yankee fan. But if you were a Red
Boston
Sox fan, I could be like, oh, that's a deal breaker. Like
Right.
that's a red flag. I can't date you because like I can't go to a game with you.
there's
So
real people like
there's
that too.
people like that.
Yeah.
So and then there's red flags like, oh, somebody's a liberal versus a conservative, like they can't
Yeah.
date. Somebody's Muslim versus Christian, they can't date. So there's like certain red flag deal breakers that it really varies from person to person. So it's hard for me to kind of give like a blanket like this is a red flag because it really is based on each person. But so what this book does is I kind of outline, and by no means am I like a relationship coach or anything like that, but I've done like so much research and I go to therapy myself where I talked about this. But I first and foremost like outline what is a red flag and like how do you establish red flags? So you need to like know yourself and you have to know your worth and know what you want to tolerate. You have to love yourself and establish like those boundaries and then say, okay, so if this red flag gets presented to me, like, am I willing to move forward or am I going to take a pause? Like, am I going to break it entirely? So I kind of, the introduction like goes through that. And then it talks about how the book is broken down. So don't laugh, but the book is broken down into 4 sections. So the first is, it comes in hot and comes in heavy. It's called Raunchy Rendezvous, right?
Okay.
So raunchy rendezvous, roller coaster relationships, rock bottom moments, and then revelations.
All ours.
All ours. I
Right.
love alliteration.
Like
it's just
the-
a little weird
I like the
thing.
detail too.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
It's
'Cause I didn't even get. I heard this a couple of times. And I didn't even pick that up.
damn, Auntie, how many videos have we done?
You guys shoot your own-
Do you even love me? No, I'm kidding.
She says it on all her podcasts, all the promos, and he's editing them. Never picks up on it. Says it once here. Oh, nice alliteration there.
Yeah, Auntie, I love you so much. So then the first 3 sections, so the rendezvous, roller coaster, and rock bottom, there's 4 chapters each. So 3 are dedicated to like a person or some kind of instance. And then the last one within each section is called the root cause reflections. So like, why did I fall for these rock bottom of men? Why did I fall for these roller coaster relationships? So I do like my own introspections. But throughout, so I'll call it a red flag. So for instance, a red flag is if he calls his ex crazy, like without any explanation, elaboration, like that bitch was crazy, that's a red flag, and it's, so then I'll stop. And then in the book, you'll see like there's a call out. It'll say, okay, if he calls his ex crazy, that's a red flag. How did I rationalize it? Okay, well, maybe he was just joking, right? What I should have done, say, hey, maybe don't talk about her like that. What do you mean? Ask for some clarification, elaboration. Self-love lesson. If he talks about somebody like that, one day he may more than likely talk about you like that to somebody else. So you have to evaluate, do you want to move forward? So it's kind of like this workbook where I go through my stories and again, all of these red flags, why I ignored them. But I did recognize them, but why I ignored them, and then how it kind of went down this snowball effect of my life, my love life. It got me into some pretty toxic and rough relationships, but I'm sharing this to hopefully with the revelations say like, this is where you should be in life. Like you have to love yourself and nurture yourself before you even date anybody. You have to date yourself first. But if you do start dating, here's some red flags, to be aware of.
You give real life examples?
Yeah.
So
A
you
lot.
go through like your story and then educate on that.
Yeah.
So, hopefully everybody reads the book, but I want to just
Yeah.
dive right into the juiciness
Go
of
for
this.
it.
I want to know about the stories that didn't make the book.
Ooh,
Damn.
that was deep. There's a few.
So I'm not going to ask too much on the book. I mean, I will.
mean, you can if
no,
you
no, no,
want.
no.
Oh, okay.
I am going to ask about the book. I said that wordly. I said that wrongly. I want to know some of the stories in the book because it's not out yet. But
Yeah.
just so people know. But at the same time, I want to know what didn't make the book, because same thing, like as a video, editor and filmmaker, not everybody makes the final cut. We shoot so much stuff, and then it's like you're only seeing like the best 10%, 1%.
Yeah.
So talk to me about a story. Or let's start here. Let's start with a story that's in there. What's your favorite story? And favorite in the sense of like maybe it wasn't the most pleasant
Or the
time.
best written.
Yeah, whatever. Let's talk about the story that you're most proud of that's in that book that made the cut.
Ooh. Okay.
Think about that one.
There's 2 chapters I love,
Okay.
but one isn't related to a man. So you know how I said that there's a root cause reflection chapter. So there's 3 of those. So one chapter I talk about, and it goes into my attachment issues. So when you said daddy issues, it's funny because there's a chapter in there called like my deadbeat daddies and attempting to fill those deadbeat voids or whatever. Because
Went to go get milk one day, never came back.
literally facts.
Bro, I know the worst dads, bro.
But it creates like a daddy issue is just like an anxious attachment to not having a father figure in your life, and then you can have like resentment towards a father figure. So that is a chapter in the book. So that's funny. But one of my favorite chapters is, so in the 4th grade, my house like burned down to the ground in a fire.
Oh, wow.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. It wasn't, I'm saying it so like, the 4th grade,
Let me tell you about this fire one time.
Yeah, let me tell you. But it's in there because, the way I write it is so like, it's so beautiful, even though it's like so chaotic and it's so deep and it's so dismal. But I write it so I remember it to this day. But that day fucked me up because like I never had a home, so I was very nomadic in nature, bouncing around. I was basically homeless. Like I had nothing to my name except like my pajamas, like that were on my back, and then like my teddy bear. And for years, like my family had to like ramp up. We had nothing. We were poor growing up.
And,
so
and
like
this happened with
4th grade.
fourth grade.
In the 4th grade.
Your parents together, not together?
My parents were divorced at that time, so that like so you're gonna read this, and it's not like chronological in nature, but you're gonna understand like who I am. Like all of these stories kind of compound.
Okay.
But so I write this chapter, and it just shows like why I was always so like searched, so desperately yearning for a home and a partner. So it like very goes deep into my psyche there. So I love that chapter like more than anything. But
So that's a story that you like that's in the book.
I love it.
Okay,
Like,
now that I want to read that story. That sounds pretty good.
It's so good. But the one chapter about a guy, I guess I'll get to the juice of it. Are you guys want to hear like a weird fact about me, like a weird sexual kink?
Whatever you want to share.
So one of my chapters starts off hot and heavy. So I have like a weird thing where like, Michael Myers on Halloween.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Like I kind of want to like one Halloween just like get choke slammed by a Michael Myers.
But like planned or like surprised?
Like
You wanna-
plans with a boyfriend.
You want to come? Okay, so like you don't want to come home from work and like your man's is like in the fucking costume. Just
that could
would that still turn you on, or would that like?
She's not gonna expect it. She has to.
Or
witness-
do you want to know like, hey, like babe, Friday the 13th.
like
2
let me
weeks
know
from
when
now,
I need to be Jamie Lee Curtis, you know?
That-
Like
that's what I'm saying. Like, it's
So
is
cosplay?
it yeah,
maybe, I don't know.
real knife or fake knife?
Definitely fake.
Just wanted to see how far that goes.
But it's just like a weird thing. But I have a chapter in the book about like it opens up hot. Like I guess we're comfortable enough with each other to say like my sexual kink is and fantasy is I want to get choke slammed by like Michael Myers. So that it's like, and then it goes into how I went after this battle rapper. Like literally, he was a battle rapper.
This is real life.
This is real life. He had like a whole like Michael Myers like horror sleeved themed like tattoo on his arm, and he was a hot mess of a man.
You were like, this is the guy.
And I was like, he's
gonna fucking choke.
I was like, he's gonna choke me, and it's gonna be
this
great.
coming to a theater near you.
coming to a home near you.
Yeah. So
Talk about
Has that happened?
what?
Getting choke slammed by Mike? Like, not yet.
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
So it's still out there. It's still out there.
Guys,
That fantasy
guys,
is waiting.
anybody trying to choke?
Could be you. Could be you out there.
I know it's super weird.
Only if you subscribe.
I thought I was weird, right? But then I went on Reddit, and there's like hundreds of people who like have a kink for Michael Myers. I'm like, I'm not alone.
Really? I've never heard of
I'm
that.
not alone.
I think that's very brave to say that out loud and live.
She knows what she wants, bro. That's what.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think that's commendable.
Listen,
because not
the book
everyone.
has a lot in there. I'm just like I own who I am at this point. Like I realize there's stories in there I'm not proud of. Like I'm not proud of like going after a guy just because he had like he was a sexy poppy with a Michael Myers tattoo. Like I'm not proud of that, but like
It's who you are, who you've
made for
lived
a funny
through.
story.
It's not
Yeah.
fully who you are, but I mean, like,
Yeah.
it's made you who you are.
yeah, and I'm like, if somebody's gonna judge me over like what I did when I was 19, 20, 21, I'm like, I wish
don't
you
need 'em.
well, but it's like it's made me who I am today, and like
Right.
I can look back at it and just say like, all right, that wasn't smart, Brie. You've put yourself in situations that weren't the wisest, but you've learned from it and you're better for it. So I own it. Like I own it. There's nothing in this book. Like when you asked, what are some things in this that didn't make the cut? There's some things with some. I change a lot of like the identities of I change everything about these guys because I don't want somebody to go on my Instagram and be like, who's this guy from chapter 6 with the Michael Myers tattoo? Like I blocked him from social. Like I don't want anybody to be able to find a connection. You know what I'm trying to say?
Right.
Like even though they dogged me, like I'm not trying to dog them publicly
Yeah.
or like
Right.
defame them or anything. So I cut a lot of characteristics and storylines that could really like track you to somebody. So
Right.
a lot of that didn't make the cut.
So the identities are hidden. So that's
Identities
clear.
are
Nobody's in
completely
trouble.
hidden. Nobody.
How do your parents, take this information? How do, again, not that it's like bad stuff. I'm just saying like,
Yeah.
because you're very open in that sense, right? You're very transparent, which not many human beings I feel like are. So, do they support it? Do they love it? Do they dislike it? Like,
So parent, my mom. I don't know my dad, so like that's again a chapter in the book.
Mom.
So my mom,
grandparents.
my Mima's still. She read some of it actually, and she's like beautiful writing. But I'm like, I don't want you to read the raunchy rendezvous. I'm like, just skip to page
gets-
like 80.
You gave her
the safety version.
you gave her the grandma version.
Yeah.
She's like, Brie, this book starts on page 80. Yes. That was deliberately done.
Just for
That's
you.
the only part you could read.
My mom. I told her.
What was
because-
the feedback? I guess that's the real question.
Yeah, so my mom actually just read it, and Andy recorded like the day that I got 3 of the books like hard in the flesh. We popped bottles in a Barnes and Noble parking lot of
Nice.
champagne. It was so fun. But my mom was like, I'm gonna go home tonight and read it. So, but to backtrack, I told my mom, I was like, there's gonna be stuff in there about you. There's gonna be stuff in there about like, so for instance, my stepdad, he had anger issues growing up, so he would like flip tables, like cops were called on us all the time. So there's things in there that I'm like, I'm putting out there, but I don't know if you feel comfortable that I'm putting it out there.
That's exactly what I'm asking. Yeah.
So she was just like, Brie, like own it and I'll own it with you. And I was like, as long as I have your buy-in, like I'm good. And if you don't feel comfortable having something in there, then I'll scratch it because it's me writing. It's not my right to share your story because
Right.
I could hide everybody else's life, but I can't hide my mom.
Yeah,
like
people
it's
know
my
your
mom.
mom, yeah.
Yeah. My mom was like my girl. Like I can't, so she didn't want it. But
she a G.
there was some things in there. She loves you, by the way.
She's going.
Yo, who doesn't love Andy,
Yo.
bro? Andy's just
Andy, I love him.
Yo,
He's the little cutest little
and you
actor. I
get,
can't.
you get so much love.
He deserves a world of love. But anyway,
we give
his
Andy his roses
flowers.
while he's alive.
always. But there were some things I was like, Mom, there's gonna be some stories in there that I don't know if it's not gonna shed me in the best of light, and there's some other, and she's like, I pretty much know everything. I'm like, no, you don't. I'm like, you may think you do. And then she
Right.
read it actually, and she was like, damn, like I didn't know like this all happened, or you felt this type of way when you were going through this. So she was like, I'm sorry, like you didn't feel comfortable enough to tell me you were going through it with this guy or things like that. There's a chapter in there of like sexual abuse, which is like really that was hard to write about. But she's just like, I'm here for you if you ever want to talk about it in more detail. So having my mom's support like is all the support I need. Having like my publisher support, my editor support, like that's all I need to make me feel safe and secure. But to answer your question, the feedback from my mom at least has just been like nothing but beautiful. And it's brought us closer, honestly.
That's like wholesome in a way.
It
You know?
is. And I'm a much better writer than I am a verbal, even though I'm a public speaking professor. I'm so much better at writing, physically writing than speaking. So it's just, I think she's seeing me in a different light. And it's really beautiful.
It's beautiful what you could do with words. One of my friends is also like just very, very skilled writer. Like he's like one of my best friends that I grew up with. His name is Max. Shout out to you, Max. But he's just like, you just know, right? Like when you read something, it's just like, that is so, I always make the example, right? It's like, I'm not the best writer. I've gotten better throughout time, especially because of emails and like corporate stuff. And just, you have to know how to write emails and papers. But like, when I read a piece of art, a piece of work, and I just love the cohesiveness. I love how everything just flows and it just story tells, and it's just like, I can never do that, and I wish I could, because for me it's like, I outright like like the dog runs fast, and it's just like people just like could creatively put that into such a just perfect sentence where like,
yeah, but you're beautiful with video though, and like a skill I would love to have, but I also don't have the time to even nurture that skill, is like what you guys do. So don't knock it, like don't knock yourself either.
We
all have our own little niches.
We want to be good at everything.
I want to be good at everything.
I want all the titles.
all the goats.
All of it.
Yeah.
Goats, five finger rings.
No,
I get what you're saying now.
So was it something that came to you naturally? Was it something that you worked on? Like, so to talk to me about that, right? So even before the book, right?
Yeah.
Did you just know, like, were you always just getting A's on all your papers growing up? Like, what's...
So it's funny you say I'm hearing a little like, okay, cool. I was like, what is that? I was like, did I fuck up the mic?
It's Michael Myers. We have a surprise for you.
Oh my God. We would have to turn the cameras off real quick. No.
We're not doing that. It's like Ellen. You know how like Ellen like on TV will be like,
yeah.
She's like, what are you most afraid of or whatever?
Did you see the Diddy one with clowns?
Yeah, that was
and
creepy.
he like,
Yo,
That was creepy.
Yes.
I wish.
he just gets into like a surprise.
That would be an amazing surprise. Oh my God. My reaction would be like, okay, hot and bothered over here. No, I'm kidding.
All right, so growing up, papers, writing.
Yes, so I was actually really good with English and math. And like I said, I went up to like imaginary calculus in school, like in high school.
Imaginary calculus.
Imaginary numbers.
What subject?
There's like a whole section on imaginary numbers. Like it's like an actual thing.
We're talking about negative numbers because those are imaginary.
I don't even know. It was like I don't even remember calculus.
Negative numbers they're not numbers. Well, I mean, I guess they're numbers, but they're integers because you can't have a negative of something.
True.
Okay.
Nerd stuff.
Yeah. Well, either way, I took a class on it that totally flipped my mind because like I don't have the mental capacity to remember it, but I took something of that nature.
Sure.
So I was really good with like math and English, but I always liked writing way better. So yeah, I've just always, I was in like advanced proficient, like linguistics, language, things of that nature. And then I just wanted to be a journalist. Like that was my thing. I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to write for the New York Times. That's what I went to school for. But then the journalism field was kind of just like not what I anticipated it to be, especially with like the BuzzFeeds and the clickbaits. It kind of ruined journalism for me.
It's different nowadays too,
It's different.
Right? Like what I do is kind of like, could be considered journalism.
It is though. It's like, it's video journalism.
Yeah.
But so I just, I left journalism and then I just knew I wanted to write. I love.
You just
writing.
always had that passion, that inclination.
Had that passion. Yeah.
And you know what? I love that you've followed it because, and it's cool that you knew it since like an early age because, it's hard to figure out like what you're either good at or what you enjoy to do, and then obviously now writing the whole book and making it like the career move, like that's.
I don't know. It's interesting, and I tell this to Andy all the time. I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna write another book, and he's just like, just wait to see. But this killed me. This probably took like 10 years off of my life because it's not only the act of writing, but it's the act of editing, which I know I asked you before the podcast. I'm like, do you like editing? I hate editing. I'm like, I want to just word dump and then I don't want to edit, but it's so necessary and it's so integral. Yeah. So it's like writing, editing, scratching that, writing, editing. And I've read this thing like 3,000 times and that's not even like, actually that's probably the low end, like probably like 10,000 times. Like we were on draft in just the beginning of, it was like 576. That was just like the first draft before it even went through like editing. I was like, this sucks. But it was very therapeutic too.
Yeah. Do you know how many pages are in it?
320, baby.
Nice.
It's a thick book, 2 C's. Look at that thing.
There you go.
Yeah, it's cute. I talk about it like it's like a sexy little like deserves an OnlyFans. Like look at that, you know.
Put up a paywall. We're gonna blur that book. Nobody's gonna see the book.
You gotta pay this.
$1.99 if you want to see what that book looks like.
Just see it inside.
We
yes.
should blur that.
That's funny.
That is funny.
Now, what about so the book wise? You're saying obviously it was super super hard. I can imagine. What would you say is like the hardest thing about like you know, because I feel like everyone goes through their own struggles, whether it's like, you know, you kind of knew some publishers, so that was really helpful. Some people don't, right? So they don't
Yeah.
have that network. What would you say for you, the hardest part about writing the book was putting yourself out there, the editing, the like revisions, like what
So for anybody who's out there who's like looking to write a book, so I just want to like kind of like do a little note. So there's like self-publishing, which is kind of like your Amazons. You can do it on Barnes and Noble. So that's, you have full like jurisdiction of how you want to write your book. You have to edit it yourself. You could get your own designer, things like that, but it's you yourself. So you don't have like a team behind you. Then there's the traditional publishing, which is like your Penguin Random House, your Simon and Schuster, like your big dogs that are putting out like millions of books a year, right? Then there's kind of like your hybrid publishers, which are kind of mixing both. And with tradition, there's pros and cons to either that you do. With traditional, typically you don't retain the rights to your book, so they can do whatever they want if it parlays into a movie or something like that. But they help with distribution and marketing. So there's pros and cons.
Right.
I went the hybrid route because it was just, I wanted to retain rights to this book in case I do want to parlay it into like a Netflix miniseries or something like that. But I'm responsible for all of the marketing that I have to do. But it also came with a team of editors. So I think figuring out first and foremost, like which route I wanted to go was very stressful because I was like, do I want to self-publish? But I was like, I don't know if I know enough about that. Do I want to like do a whole pitch sheet and go to like a Simon and Schuster? I don't know. That's a lot of time. Those things are like 90 pages, by the way. That's like a third of my book, like to pitch a book of like, and a proposal of what you want to write about. So that was really stressful. And then also just the structuring of the book. Like this book would be nothing if it wasn't for my publisher saying like, I think it should be roller coaster, you know, raunchy roller coaster, rock bottom this. At first it was like chronological. It was like, here's me like from birth to now. And she's like, you know, it's a good flow. But she was like, I really think we could do better. And I was just like, God damn it. That means like 10 more revisions, you know? But it was the structuring, because if you don't have a solid structure, just like with anything in life, like it's just gonna fall. So I needed that solid foundation. So that was really rough, but I give that to my publisher. That was all her brains. And then the editing was like it was a ton. I was telling this to Andy too. I was like, for like 3 years of my life, like, and I think you guys get it because you're creative. Like when you're like locked in your house or whatever, like editing, it's like, I don't think people sometimes who aren't in this field of like creating understand just how like daunting of a task that is, that like you have to immerse your whole body and being into this task. Otherwise it's not going to get done. Like nobody else is going to do it for you. Like only you and you alone. So like I couldn't see my friends for like 2-3 years as much as I wanted to. And they didn't really understand. It created like some rifts a little bit in my friendships because they're like, yo, what are you doing? Like, why are you locked in this room? I'm like, yo, this is my therapy. Like, I gotta do it. But I think now they get it, you know?
becomes your life.
It's too much.
Yeah. Literally, it is your life. Yeah.
It is.
Like, yeah. No, I know fully what you mean. I lock myself in the studio for hours.
At least you got these nice little love seats now, though.
We didn't always have them.
It wasn't always this comfortable.
We used to sit on the floor. No, that's a lie. We've never sat on the floor.
And you got a nice little water cooler. Like, I could veg out here.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean, though. Yeah. It's with any sort of work, right? Whether it's like book, whether it's video, photography, or any other form of art out there, right? Like actual painting and drawing and stuff. It's funny because it's like you have to perform. It's a different type of work. Like there's work that's like, okay, like it's like, you know, for lack of a better word, like you're like a push paper, right? It's like, okay, like you just run miscellaneous errands and you're just like, all right, gotta go, you know, do this, that, the other thing. And it's like you're told what to do in a sense, right? So it's just like those tasks are almost like anybody could do it. And then so with some of this stuff, because it's like self, it's coming from here, you need to be in the right mindset. You need to have slept the right amount of hours. You need to like sometimes I'm like, yo, I can't edit. Like I'm hungry. And that sounds so dumb. It's like, you just do the work. Like you're hungry. I'm like, no, but like, I just can't get in like my brain because like my stomach is like, you know, and then, or maybe I'm sleep deprived. And so now it's like, I just can't tap into creativity and get a great product for the client who's paying for it. Even though it might be like, I don't know, Thursday at like 3:00. Because it's different, you know, it's a different type of work. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. So for us creatives, I'm sure you can relate. I'm sure both of you guys can relate, or anybody out there on that level.
You hit certain walls sometimes and you got to maneuver
Oh my
around.
God.
Writer's
Do
block.
you hit walls editing too? Is that a thing? Oh, that is another obstacle.
I can't
Oh,
imagine
God.
more, especially with your words, is like very self-criticizing. Like, do I put it this format, that format?
Do you want to
You
know
know?
two big things that I struggled with too? And I'm sure you could probably relate into your editing. So one is I didn't know when to stop. Like at a certain point, we were like 5 edits away from it being final. And I would catch little things. I'm like, oh, there's a comma here that should be added, right? So then there's one more round of revisions. But I would read 320 pages and I'm catching one minor thing each time. And at one point, my publisher was like, Brie, like no work of art ever is perfect. She's like, you just gotta like wipe your hands clean and let go.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know when to let go. So like, do you ever struggle with that when you're doing
All
a
the time.
video?
I can answer this one because
I
I
love how
feel
he
like
roasts his hand.
before everybody starts giving opinions, I want to talk about that too because I feel like I am that perfectionist that has to get every little detail in, cross every T, dot every I. Like that's me when it comes to my work. But I feel like working with Alan, honestly, he kind of pushed me to be like, yo, like, let's let the client make that judgment. You know, let's not beat ourselves up too much over everything because you can't perfect and finalize everything. Let's send it off to the client and see what they think about it. And 9 times out of 10, it's cool. They like it. They don't have too many
Is
revisions
it
on
because
it.
they're seeing it from a lens like they're not a video producer, so they're not picking up on things that you're fixating on? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
like
It's-
technical on a technical level.
On a very
I think it's
technical level.
both, and he's a very technical person for sure.
Yeah.
He's very skilled at what he does, I think it's easy to fall into the trap of, and everybody falls into that trap. Like Matt was working on a video earlier this week, and I was like, bro, like this is like done. Send this. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like you'll spend 3 more hours
They're like,
sitting
"Whoa,
here.
but I could do this. and I
Yeah,
could
no,
do that."
Alan's the one that'll be like, yo, like, take a break back, step away from it, and let's let the client decide, what's going on with that.
Damn.
Yeah, but it's like
At least I'm not alone. No. There's
but-
unity and
I
camaraderie
feel like
here.
it's
You
something
know?
I had to learn.
no,
It's hard.
That's the word right there. You have to learn. I had to learn that as well though, because you can't you just like it's there is no such thing as perfection, and I think if you were kind of focused on that perfectionism of the book, for me, anything that goes out on live, whether it's this podcast or whether it's like any of the videos that we make, whether it's for our YouTube channel or like our little like Sideways 60 videos or any clientele work, my number one, I guess, priority is just being proud of the work.
Yes.
Knowing that like, okay, like what
God,
we're
yes.
delivering to you right now is what of the utmost proudness. Like I didn't just fucking put this together and just say like, yo, here you go, pay me. Because it's not about the money. It's not about like just getting shit done just to say it's done. It's like, I want you to genuinely feel like, and that doesn't always translate, but like and that's what I mean by like, okay, like, are you proud of it? Are you happy with it? Like, you might not be satisfied with it. You might not be like, because like you do get to a technical point where, like you said, as the professional, yeah, we notice it, but
Yeah.
as the audience,
The
they're
consumer, they're not gonna nitpick that.
They're
They
never gonna, they're not,
appreciate it,
never even gonna notice that. And that's not to
Yeah.
say because they're not gonna notice, we're not gonna do it. But it's just like sometimes you have to outweigh like how long something takes. And in the editing world, maybe a simple editing job where like you're turning, I don't know, something dark into light or removing something is gonna take 2-3 hours. For what? You're gonna spend 3 hours revising something that nobody's even gonna like recognize. So now you're wasting those 3 productive hours where you could have been working on another project that
Yeah.
would have gotten you more productive and would have finished. So because it's like, so yeah, it's an internal battle. It's an internal battle,
It
but
is.
you gotta take a step back.
I know Andy, when we did like a book release event, and I threw a party for everybody just to like my closest, I say closest, there was like 90 people there, but I threw a party for people, just thank people for being there for me along this journey of not only just writing the book, but my life. And Andy came and he filmed, I did like a little Q&A, like I asked my friends, like, what's a red flag? And we had like a little mic sesh, right? And I know the audio, there was some like issues with the audio. And I know I was like, yo, Andy, I was like, whatever you're about to give me, I was like, I promise I'm going to like it. And even though the audio, you could tell like it was a little off, I'm like, yo, nobody's going to care. I'm like, I love it. Like just release the project. I was like, yo, it's good. And he was like, oh yeah, I don't want to. I'm like, Andy, give me the video. Like, I just want to post it.
Yeah.
Like, so I know how he gets too, but I love it. I appreciate it.
It's just knowing what to care. Like you should care about it all for sure, but ultimately too, it depends on the project itself, right? Like this is a book, so like this
Yeah.
is like something that will live forever.
I hope.
It's sort of no, it will essentially. I mean, it's
Yeah.
gonna live on your shelf. It's gonna live on the people who buy it. Like it's
Yeah.
gonna be a piece. I don't know if you're releasing a digital version of it, but like it's something that it's just it will live essentially in one way or another in people's libraries, right? So versus if you just wrote like a poem that you posted on Instagram, that will probably get posted today and then it will be lost in people's
There's only so much
feeds.
reach. Yeah.
Right. So then it's like it's knowing like, okay, like what are you creating right now? Is this something that's a permanent piece of content or is this something that's just like a 24-hour piece of content? And that's how you gauge how much like not care, but how much like perfectionism you should give it. So it's just like, and it's being able to distinguish
true.
that. So when you take a step back from the canvas and you realize, just you're too close to it to even notice, like sometimes it's nice because I'm not the one that's like, in a 3-hour process of editing. So when Matt or Andy are like super into the edit, I'll come by and it's like, all right, I'll look at it and be like, no, dude, this is great. This is solid. Like this is ready. Like send it out. Because you're gonna.
That shit empowers me. As soon as he says that, all right, bet. All right, bet.
Approved.
But yeah, that and I think that goes with all art.
Because art, I think my one gem my publisher dropped, and she dropped plenty, but she was just like, you realize art is subjective, right? Like we could go to the same museum and you're gonna flock to one painting and one person may flock to another and one person may just walk out and be like, this is not my style, and that's okay. Just like I'll argue to the death of me, Lil Wayne is the best rapper ever, and some people may
That's your honest opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not laughing. I don't know why I like smirked that.
I mean, he's there.
He's good. He's very good. He's up there.
Right now. Like
Like
I'm not gonna say current.
Current like
He was the
Like,
hottest growing up.
I still say he.
Oh,
Did you hear his the new song he just put out? Like over the DMX sample, fire.
I didn't hear
Yo,
it. I heard
Lil Wayne.
Fire.
Lil Wayne's iconic.
No, he's there.
I love it.
Yo.
I bump Lil Wayne.
He's definitely top.
Who's your number one?
Number one of all time.
Current. I should have had that clarifying.
Current. I like a lot of these independent rappers. Like
Okay.
I'm a big Russ guy.
Oh my god, I do love Russ, and he's from Jersey.
Yeah.
Jersey?
Yeah.
Russ is like the number.
Isn't he from like Secaucus? Or
No,
Sayre-
so he
yeah.
was he lived. So he's one of those guys who also like nomadically like, moved around because of his parents' jobs or
I
whatever.
love Russ and everything he stands for. By the way,
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
It's for me. There's substance to it.
Yeah.
But there's also like just music. So it's not just like, okay, like this guy's preaching and like this ain't music anymore.
Russ.
But I love that like he's got like just this whole independent persona. Like he's not signed to a record label. He's not like signed to anything. He literally writes, produces, mixes, masters, puts it out. Like
He's
his
fire.
from
Oh,
A through Z puts out his
Yeah.
whole content. And so it's like, maybe he's not doing like Drake numbers or like, Lil Wayne or whatever, but from like a just self-made person, what he's accomplished and what
Yeah.
he's doing, and he's putting other people on and he's touring the whole world. And, it's just like, it's great. And his music is good too, because
It
it's like,
is.
there's not just numbers, like, there's people who put out music and okay, you got a bunch of streams, but like there are no people at the shows or like there's no ticket sales or there's just, it's just,
Boring.
or the music just sucks. But
But what's beautiful, and tying back to what you said earlier, he will be the first to post on TikTok like, I'm not for everybody, but for those who are like who like me and like fuck with my music, like I'm here for you, and I'm going to keep producing content to that highest of level because I want my fans to continue to indulge. So it's like he even recognizes like not everybody's going to like you, but the people who do like you and the people who do rock with you, like I'm gonna make sure I'm there for you. So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the same mentality I have with this book. Like not everybody's gonna read this and be like, oh, she's the best writer ever, because you may like Gatsby style English, and this is not. This is more like conversational style writing, but that's okay. Like that's okay. Just like some people may look at your videos and be like, oh, I like these transitions, and like that's okay. Like maybe partner with them moving. It's okay,
Yeah.
but. As long as you're proud of the work at the end of the day, I think that's all that matters.
yeah, agreed. No, yeah, you said it perfectly. There's yeah, I mean, there's videos that we do that are like cookie cutter, but that just has to do with the industry of what it is. Like,
Yeah.
it's like saying like, I don't know, you're like, like a car, like you could artistically like come out with like new models every single year, but when it comes time to do like an oil change, like we're not looking to reinvent the wheel. Like an oil change is an oil change. Like dump that oil, put new oil in. Like we're doing the same thing. Like, okay,
Yeah.
like you're showing
Keep it moving.
this home or you're showing this product. Like, look, like there's only so many angles and only so many video shots of this thing that we're gonna get. Like it's just we're not gonna reinvent it. Like,
That's
it's just,
true.
So
Do you ever struggle with like imposter syndrome?
All the time.
How do you overcome that?
I don't even think it's something you need to overcome. Like, what do you mean, like, overcome it? Like, do you?
I used to, definitely. Like, do you? I saw you give me a look.
No.
No.
Can you elaborate on that?
So I would define imposter syndrome as like you
What's
just
your
don't think
definition?
you just don't think you're good enough. Like whatever you put out there isn't good enough, and it's always going to be open to like criticism or critique, and it's just not the fullest of potentials it should be. Sometimes you don't even feel like valid enough to be doing the work that you're doing. It's kind of like a self-confidence thing.
I think you should just always think that you could always do better, but obviously, with whatever you're giving, if you knew you gave your best at that moment, that's great. You should be thinking in the next thing you do, how can we do it better? And I think it's just a way of evolving as a person, trying to better yourself.
We'll put it this way, right?
But for it to hold you back, I don't think that's healthy.
No.
Yeah,
Like,
it's definitely not healthy.
Yeah, because if you think like that way, you wouldn't be depressed all the time, I think.
if someone said,
Never satisfied.
someone said, "Hey, you're a photographer. Do you feel like you're a photographer?
You're like, yeah,
You are."
yeah.
If I say the word video,
So cute, yeah.
If he said like, yo, your shit's ass, I'm be like, well, that's up to you.
no, because I want to dive deeper in that. So okay, like, how about like a videographer? You know,
I'd say I'm a videographer.
okay. How about a filmmaker?
No, because I know I haven't made any films that I would define myself as a filmmaker like that. For me, a filmmaker is like, I guess a filmmaker would be like of high, like I know I'm using the best of the best equipment, like, yeah.
So you would say that in order to be a filmmaker, you need to have the best equipment?
To a certain degree, yeah. To like certain tools would make it look a certain way.
It would make it look better, but do you need it to be a filmmaker?
No, in that way.
So are you not? So you can't be a filmmaker?
I can be, yeah.
But you're not.
I don't define to that. No. But I can't.
One would say maybe that's imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I guess.
You make films.
Yeah.
You not make weddings.
No. No, I shoot them. I don't edit them.
Okay, but your part in like
In denial.
I didn't say editor. I mean, you're still a filmmaker making a film.
Okay. So it's just like not being the full.
It's not. It's like
It's also your connotation, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not believing that like you are doing what you're doing or who you are. Like if
It's
you're
like I am what I am, but it's like what do you see? Like what you see me as.
Imagine like tomorrow, I don't know, you had like a career change, right? And you were like a NASCAR driver, right? Like tomorrow you just placed like #1 in like a race.
All right, Dale Earnhardt Jr. over here.
Yeah, and like you won like some sort of trophy or whatever, right? People would be like, yo, like this guy, like he's like, the best of the best. He's like, the next guy, whatever.
Yeah.
Would you feel like that everything that everyone's saying about you is true? Even though you were like, yo, I literally just like started this yesterday? Yeah.
I mean,
you wouldn't feel like, no, like that's not me. Like what? Like what do you mean? Like that's
even though I did it, it's
even though you're doing it, like the proof is there. There's
Yeah.
factual like evidence, but like it's emotionally, you're like, or mentally, you're kind of like, I don't know, like, is that really me? Am I really this person? That's like imposter syndrome.
Oh no, I
That's
didn't
a
think
good
about it
way
like
of
that.
framing that, actually.
I didn't think of it like that.
I think about that all the time because I don't know. I'm interested in a lot of things in life. I don't like being tied down to like a label per se.
Same.
So it's like I don't always know how to. The best way. I mean, the way that I introduce it, if I have to introduce myself, because it's not like I want to walk into a room and be like, "Hello," here, like what I mean. Like it's just more like I want to just if there's one thing that I'm putting like on a business card, it's like okay, like just entrepreneur, because I do many things, and so it's like, am I a photographer? It's like.
Yeah.
On some days, like some days I take photos, but not every day.
I wear many hats too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And like, there's days where it's like, okay, like I'm more of an editor. Like I'm just editing the guy's stuff. So does that make me an editor? Like, I guess by definition, right?
Yeah.
Like, or am I making videos? Am I a videographer? Like, I guess, But like, what if one day I stop making videos or photos or whatever, and then now I'm just like a podcast host or something, right? Or like, I open up like a restaurant or like just so it's like. Once you start like actively doing all these other things, it's like I don't want to just be like this, like that's the only thing that I do. Like I just think like I'm just Alan, I'm just
Aww.
So that's why I'm like I feel like that's why I have imposter syndrome a lot of the times, because it's like people will be like they I don't know, that's just like how I feel. That's how I view things sometimes. What do you said you used to have it but now you don't?
I used to, yeah. So I think the kind of the meat and potatoes, if you will, of this book is just for so long I struggled with like really not loving myself, because I feel like I was almost indoctrinated into believing that I was never good enough, just from the way I was brought up, from feeling like I was never good enough because my dad left. I always harbored that, oh my God, he left because of me, which isn't true. But at such a young age,
I've seen
it
that.
started compounding, the compound effect. Look at me using your terminology, but it just started beating me down. And then I would pick a guy. So I kind of like use this visual diagram where it's like, I was here, and then I would pick a guy who would bring me down here, and then he would bring me down even more. So at one point, I really was at rock bottom. So I think I didn't have a solid establishment of who I was. So if somebody was to ask me, like, do you think you're good enough to be putting a book out there? Maybe 2 years ago, I would have said no. But now I'm just so proud of who I am. I did so much self-work, and I know who I am that I don't think I struggle with that right now. That's not to say it can't maybe come back, but, you know.
Okay, so with these guys that you were picking, right? How's your interest in guys now? Is it better? Like, or not
That's
saying
a
it,
great
not saying it was ever
question.
bad. I'm just saying
It
like,
was pretty bad.
but like, you know,
No.
is it like what kind of guys were you attracted to? I guess you know that like
Bad boys.
this
It
all.
was literally to a point where I sought validation from anybody who would give it to me. So he could have been a terrible person, but as long as he was texting me, I was like, oh, I feel great, even though I didn't. So I had no standard at one point. I'm telling you, it was really bad. It was really, really bad. So now I haven't been dating. And I know a lot of people I'm not going abstinent or anything of that nature. Like, it's almost like I want to do it. It's a choice that I'm making because I still feel like I have a lot of healing to do on my own, and I don't want to intermix any other kind of factors into that. But it's also just I have so much going on in my life right now with like this book, and as much as I would love to date somebody who I think is a great compliment to my life, and I feel much better and I have standards now, like what a concept, but I wouldn't have the time to really give, because a relationship should be mutual. You know, you give me energy, I give you some back, and it's just, I wouldn't have time to really like fuel and pump back. So to be fair to a prospective partner, I'm just out of respect for whoever that may be, I'm just not pursuing that right now.
Gotcha.
But what is my type now? You know, it's just, I don't really care what you look like. I
Well,
mean,
what are the standards? So you said you have standards now.
now I have standards.
What-
Yeah.
what are
so
they? Like, what's a red?
no deal breaker. So I've dated men who had anger problems, right? So I've dated men who have had out of control substance abuse problems. So that is no longer something that I will even remotely entertain. So, like, you're out.
first sign. So let me just
Like
paint a picture.
first sign of like a blaring red flag, like you're out. Like, I'm like, I wish you well, but like I am not in this nurturing, healing mentality where I feel like it's my responsibility to take care of you, because I feel like that gives me some type of validation. Like, I'm not doing that anymore. Like, I can't do that anymore to protect myself. But again, I wish you well. So any sign of a deal breaker, like I personally am making the decision, like I'm not entertaining that. If there's a blaring red flag, so other red flags would be like, if I find out that he talks to his mom disrespectfully, like privately and publicly, or any of his parents, like, why are you talking to your mom like that? It's just, I don't want to entertain that. Like, you should have some respect for your guardians, even if they didn't treat you the best. Like, just, there's just certain little things that you pick up on. Like, if they're rude to a service worker at a
There's
restaurant,
no right or
like,
wrong. I mean, these are
there's
your,
no
you know.
right or wrong, but it's just like, if I see something that, like, you want to know what the problem was? I'm going to be honest. I think we all have gut instincts, right? And for so long, I like hushed my gut because I was just like, shut up. Like, somebody's giving you attention, just shut up. But my gut was always just like, Bree, walk away. But I was just like, no. So and my gut 99.9% of the time has always been on point. I always get like this like feeling of good vibes when I'm around somebody who's of good energy, bad vibes whenever I'm around somebody who's bad. And for so long, I just like, I was blinded to it because I wasn't right mentally. But now it's like, I'm going to put so much love into my gut now. Like, if I sense that this is off, like, it could even be something as simple as, you don't tip 20% to somebody who really deserves it, right? Like, we can have a conversation. I'm not going to say like, I'm never going to talk to you again. But
Just
if
ghost.
I just get like a weird, like a weird vibe from you, it's just, sometimes it's just like, I don't, you know, I'm not going to proceed. So I'm going to trust my gut. Like, that's a huge, huge thing I'm going to start doing.
So it's probably in the book,
Yeah.
but I just want to know
Go for it.
your ex. We're not going to name him unless you want to.
No.
What did it for you where, you know, because obviously that there was a transformation there that happened, right? Where it was like, you know, you're in this sort of abusive toxicity and so a breakup obviously needs to occur, right?
Yeah.
What was that final straw? Like what clicked, what snapped, what, you know, like just.
Yeah. So I only started talking about this like recently because we were on. I told this to Andy too. One day
You
when
don't
we were
have to
filming.
answer,
No,
yeah.
no, it's in the book, so it's
okay.
like why wouldn't I talk about it? But
Without ruining too much for the book.
no,
So
it's not. So we were on and off for several years, and it was just from the beginning. I'm gonna be honest. My mom was like, "He's not for you. What are you doing?" My friends are just like, "It's just not it's not a good meshing." But I was just like, "F you guys! Like he's cute, you know, he's hunky." And then we had some high highs, but some low lows. And what happened is makeup, breakup. And I said we had that makeup, breakup, sex. And one time we had sex and I got pregnant. Okay. I got pregnant. Didn't even know I could get pregnant because I have something called PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. It correlates to infertility. And many, many moons ago, my OBGYN was just like, you need to go on birth control to actually get a period because you don't have one right now. So I have a lot going on. I was told I'd never have kids.
I don't want to interrupt, but
Go for it.
can you have kids now?
I think I lost weight, so I probably can, but I don't know. So what I'm going to lead to is I got pregnant. We were fighting a lot. It was a very, it was a disaster of a relationship. I got pregnant. I call him. He was at work, and he was in. I don't even want to name. I don't even know what I remember. I said his job was, but I call him. He's at work, and I say, "Hey, you know, you really need to leave work. Like, we need to talk about this." And he was just like, I'm busy, Bree. And like always with the freaking feistiness, I was like, hey, like this is like kind of big. Like we got to talk about this. He's like, what's that big? Like I'm at work. And I didn't want to say it over the phone because I like wanted to have respect for him, even though we were fighting. And I was just like, hey man, like I'm pregnant. And he was like, I'll get to it when I could get to it. And I was like, yo, that's your first reaction on the phone. Like, yo, it killed me.
That guy's a piece of shit.
That's
He was
he's
the
a piece
worst.
of
a
shit.
fucking scum.
So like hours go by. He's like, I'll meet you in a parking lot of like the mall. And I was like, yo, to talk about this. And then his tune just quickly changed. He's like, oh, this is going to be a junior. And I'm like, wait, what the fuck? He's like, I already told my mom and my friends. I'm like, I don't even know what to do with this information. Cause like we were like broken up 2 weeks ago. Like we're not even I was like, I didn't even know I could get pregnant. Like I took like 20 pregnancy tests. Like I had no idea I could get pregnant. So weeks go by and I was going for testing, whatever. And then I start to get like one day I wake up and I have it felt like somebody, not Michael Myers, stabbed me in the chest, in the stomach. And I woke up, there was blood all over. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I call my doctor and my doctor's like, you need to go to the emergency room like right now. And I'm like, I didn't tell anybody, by the way, because my mom hated this guy. I told nobody I was pregnant because I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing, but I'm trying to figure this out. So I go to the emergency room and then I find out like I'm miscarrying.
Oh my God.
And you can look at it how you want, but and I feel like I'm talking about this and people may like be like, oh, she's like I'm very disconnected from it now because I've done so much healing that I feel like I don't have any emotion to it anymore because I've
come to terms with it.
I've come to, so I'm like very much at peace with it, but I don't want to confuse it with this haunted me for years, and this is what propelled the book. So I find out I'm miscarrying, and my OBGYN was very conservative, so she didn't want to do a D&C. That's like where they literally take it out. She was like, I want to do it naturally. I want to monitor you. Come here twice a week for blood work. So twice a week for like 10 weeks, I was getting blood drawn. This man left me, like didn't care about me, didn't care what I was going through, didn't care about my pain, didn't care about my blood. Every time I would text me to be like, what's the fuck is the problem now, Brianna? Like making me feel like I was crazy. I was carrying his child. Whether or not we planned for it, it's not even, that's just have respect for me as a person. And instead of saying like, I don't have time for you, I'm working, I'm going to this event, that event, I'm like, you're going to like political events and like, or whatever he was doing at that time. And like, you're not even going to be there for me. Like it was nuts. So then I'll never forget this on the last day where like my hormone levels went back to 0 and everything was done. So this was like week 8, week 10. I was inconsolable in the OBGYN office. I was like a wreck. I don't even know how I drove home because I was like doing nothing but crying. I call him. I was like, hey, like, just letting you know it's done. He's like, I'm sorry for your loss. I was like, it was our loss. Like,
Wow.
so I say this to say, I feel like I'm minimizing, like, so this is in the book, right? This is in the book. But that was my rock bottom moment in life. I'm like, I was physically ill. Like, I was ill. And I was like, I didn't leave my bed. I cried. I didn't eat for weeks, months, bro, like months. And then he was like dating somebody, posting selfies, doing this and that. I'm like, you didn't give a fuck about me. Like, it was the hardest thing I ever had to swallow, but also the best thing to happen to me, because if I didn't reach that bottom, truthfully, I don't know what it would have taken for me to actually leave. Like, I needed something that big to shake me and be like, Bree, get out of this. Like, he doesn't care about you. Like, so that, I don't even know how I got in this conversation. Oh, you said what was it with the relationship?
Yeah.
But it was the craziest relationship. And in that, his chapters, like, that story could have been a whole book itself. But I was talking to my publisher and I'm like, yo, like, these stories aren't even about the men. Like, it's about the lessons I learned. So to even give him all of this page space, like, he has 2 chapters, that irks me. But I'm type A. I'm like, I can't have only 2 chapters, like 332. I'm like, what? Like, it has to be like 333. So my publisher was like, yo, cut this about the ex. Like, there was cheating going on. It was a mess. But the fact that I stayed, like, disgusts me. So they're the most powerful chapters in there, but the ones I hate reading, because I look at how lowly I viewed myself to have stayed, it really, really disgusts me. And my hope is, like, I don't want anybody to go through, like, what I went through. I really don't. But I hope somebody can read this and be like, wow, like, people do some crazy shit when they just don't love, like, when they just feel worthless. Like, it's sick. So I hope I could be that friend shaking you, like, get out, like, get out. I don't want you to end up like me, like, get out. Like, so yeah.
Talk about narcissistic, yo.
What do you
Definitely.
say to the girls? So maybe there's like a public announcement to the girls, or I mean, I guess it can go for anybody because it's not just like a woman thing, but for people who I guess are in that headspace, who are with troubled problems and just they're just not at peace, male or female or any gender, as a matter of fact. What do you say, like? Because there's people who hit rock bottom, but they don't bounce. They don't come up.
Yeah.
They continue down that path, and it either gets worse or they die or something crazy, right? So
No, it's very valid. Yeah.
what do you say to those people?
So are they? I guess it doesn't even matter.
The
Single
people,
relationship, right?
Yeah. I get. I mean, it's very, very situational to speak on, but I'm saying, like, just like, I guess,
Like, in a relationship, like, if you're in an abusive relationship, you mean, or you're hitting rock bottom with that person.
yeah, there's all these obvious red flags. There's all these obvious signs people are telling you left and right. Family members, friends. I know friends and just people who have gone through similar, different type scenarios. I'm not going to say names either.
No, it's okay.
And it's just like, from outside looking in, again, I can only do so much, right? It's like, I can only, pick up the calls, text back, check in, but then it's like, they have to change their lives for themselves.
Correct.
But what do you say to them, right? What to those people who are just like in that limbo where it's like they're not changing, they're not it's not
leave.
clicking. Where they
That's so sad. The one thing you can say, so I have 2 thoughts very quickly. So for that person, I would say you can't get help unless you recognize that there's a problem, right? Because you can't, just like you said, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't force them to drink.
Yeah.
So it's like you can, like, my friends would forever be like, what are you doing? Like, are you really? At one point, I was contemplating getting a house with this guy. They're like, you worked your entire life to, like, save all this money. This guy has nothing, and, like, you're willing to, like, split a house and put his name on a deed. I'm like, yeah, like, and my friends were just like, what are you doing? But I didn't see it. So I had to do my own, like, all right, Bree, like, you are in a serious problem right now. Go get mental health help. And that's a whole different issue. It was super hard to navigate. I had amazing insurance at the time. I worked for a healthcare system. Finding a therapist in network was the hardest thing. That in and of itself, I needed a therapist for that. Like, it was, like, so stressful. But just for anybody out there, like, don't give up. Like, there's free resources out there. There's mental health helplines. Like, there's suicidal helplines. There's, if you're going through addiction, there's help, like, hotlines for that. Like, there's support groups on Facebook. Like, reach out to anything and start anywhere, and people will connect you. So that's that. But the one thing I did learn, surprisingly, in all of this, I had two best friends, every single relationship I had, right? And I never listened to them, but you know how when you love somebody, like love them a lot, and friend, platonically, romantically, whatever, I had friends who I would tell them my stories. I'm like, oh, so-and-so did this. They're like, oh, it's going to be okay. Like you have those friends who are just like, it's going to be okay. So like, let's go get Chili's or whatever. Like, let's go get a taco and cry about it. I had two friends who were like, do you want to hear like what you want to hear? Or do you want to hear like what you need to do?
That's
and
me.
they would always, but that's how you know it's real love, because they knew what I should be doing. They had higher expectations for me as a person. They knew I wasn't meeting those expectations. And they were like, Bree, you need to sit back and you're going to take what we're going to say. You're being a dumbass bitch right now. And you need to see, like, what are you doing? Like, you're a professor. You got this going on and you're dealing with this. Like, and I didn't want to hear it. I'm like, you're being so mean. And they're just like, you need to sit and take this in. And they would like, and finally, like, it just clicked. Like, when I was going through the miscarriage, my friend was like, you're still stalking this guy's Instagram, like caring what he's doing when he doesn't care about you. She's like, he doesn't give a fuck about you. She's like, get up and let's do something about it. And like, it was that tough love that at that time I didn't want to hear it, but I so needed it. And I thank those two best friends to this day, because I'm like, I'm so happy you didn't just coddle me. Like, you gave me that aggressive love. Yeah. It wasn't going to be all right if I kept going down that path and just eating tacos. Like, no, it wouldn't have been.
It's hard telling that a person you love, like,
it's so hard.
You see it, and you almost don't even, like, you tell them, and then there's more that you want to tell them, but like, you don't want to sound like a hater. Oh, bro, like, just leave her. Like, you know, be like, maybe like, no, like, you know, they're suffering even though they think they're happy, and it doesn't work out, or they do something that's just terrible to the other person, and you're just like, I tried telling you,
and at
but
one
you
point,
don't want to listen. And at what point do you keep trying? Do you just
can't.
stop?
And my friends actually at one point, this is what they did that I am like, this was very commendable. At one point they were like, if you take this man back after this miscarriage, they're like, we can no longer be your friend. And I was like, wow, like that's rough. But they were like, I've listened to you bitch about this guy for 3 years. I've given you advice. They're like, I'm physically drained, like trying to help you. And you're just going to be helpless and like give up and throw up the white flag, like of surrender. They're like, if you take this guy back, we love you, but we can no longer be your friend. And at that, I was like, damn, I'm going to lose my friends over this. Like, no way. Yeah. But they set those boundaries for themselves. So what your question is, like, if you see somebody doing this and then they're in limbo, at a certain point, you need to know as a friend, like, if they're not going to change, like, or if they're going to do it at their own pace, you may have to back up a little bit, as tough as that is, like, because you can't take that on.
Yeah. No, so I have a couple of things I want to say on that. One, I'm definitely a tough love giving person.
I love that. It sucks, but I love it.
These guys know. There's a couple quotes that I'm going to quote, but one of them is like, you know, everybody loves when you keep it real until you keep it real with them.
Yes.
So it's like, I will, you know, like if we're in the studio and somebody's fucking up, it's like, you know, I'm the first to just talk my shit and just lay exactly how it is. No filter, just unapologetic. Like, yo, this is like what I think, you know, whether right or wrong, whether the approach is right or wrong, you know, I'm working on that, but it's like, yo, just like, and then it's like, outside looking in, you know, people are like, yo, like, this is the, yeah. But then it's like when it's your turn and I have to dish that out on people, friends, family, whoever, you're like, I'm the fucking bad guy. Like, you hate me. But I don't care. I really do. I live unapologetically in that sense with my friends, family, and everybody. But secondly, when those friends of yours were giving you that tough love, did you take it as a tax? Did you feel like, you know, like before the whole boundary of like either him or us, right? Like, did you, how perceptive were you to like the feedback that you were getting, right? Did it like, did you brush it off? Did you were like, no?
It definitely sat with me. I very much, I feel very deeply and I take what people say to heart, especially those who love me, right? So when my one gay best friend, he tells it how it is. He's just like, bitch. Like,
and they usually do.
And they do. Andy knows who I'm talking about.
Shout out to that friend.
Lays down that fucking hammer of truth sometimes. And that shit is hot sometimes. Like, it hurts. So there was never a time where it didn't like resonate with everything he said was spot on. But then I would quickly go to the coddling friends, be like, guys, like this happened, and I would like, yes, and it was just, it almost exacerbated the situation I was in, when really I needed 10 more friends to like almost beat me down and just be like, you like, but then be there to lift me up and be like, all right, like now that you're down, you realize where you are, like let's grow up and get up together. Like I'll
Exactly.
bandage you and this and that, but like you got to get away from that person. And it was just, so I definitely listened, and it did make me feel shittier. I'd be lying if I said like I wanted to hear it, but
Right.
even like writing this book, there'd be like chapters or paragraphs that I didn't want to cut, and my publisher was like, you know, you could do better, like rework it. And I'm like, no, like I love it. And she's like, rework it. And now that I look back, I'm like, I'm so happy I reworked it. So sometimes it's just like you need to hear things you don't want to hear in order to grow and just expand
Growth
yourself.
isn't comfortable.
Correct.
It's not meant to be comfortable. So the information you're getting back from anybody on anything, like it's fine to get like your roses, to get thank yous, to get praises and comments and compliments, but like ultimately, like, you know, it's like you don't want yes people around you, and you don't want just like, you know, like it's the guys when we talk about work, right? Same thing. It's just like I'm always like, all right, like what do you guys hate about this video? Like I don't even ask. I've never asked like what do you guys. It's not wait, what do you guys think of this video? Or like, hey, like tell me your favorite part. It's like, yo, what do you hate about this video? And it's just like
what can we do to improve?
and I will go through friends, and I will send out like whatever, like before I go to the client. So you know, for anybody who's watching who works with us, I literally do this. I'm like sending stuff out to everybody, and I'm like, all right, tell me what you hate. And if somebody says like, oh no, I think it's perfect, I'm like, okay, you know, screw you. You're useless to me. With the next person, like somebody be like, hey, like what do you dislike about this, or what do you hate, and you know, and whatever. But then I also assess it. So it's like somebody might be like, oh, it's the audio, or it's the music, or it's the edit, or it's the whatever it is, right? I mean, everyone has their own like critique, but I will then gather all 5, you know, negative things that people have said about it, so that I can then reflect and be like, okay, is this true, or is this like just their perspective?
Correct.
Because, you know, I'm not going to just take by heart what the person said, even though they might be my homie or whatever, but it's just like, so my immediate thing is always going to like that real tough, just
it's a balancing act.
yeah, it's a balancing act. And you're spot on too with the whole, basically like, look, it's like, I get so drained giving out the same advice to people.
Yes.
Because it's like, and I really just, if I give you advice given to you like once, twice, maybe 3 times, after that, like I'm done. I'm not repeating myself.
That's why I give my friends credit. I'm like, yo, you did this for 3
years.
years, like X amount of years. I'm like,
done.
yo, I see students and I'm like, this is not how you format APA formatting. I'm like, yo, after 3 times, like, I'm just giving you 5 points off. Like, come on, man. Like, I gave you all the resource. So I can only imagine when you're that connected to somebody, how annoying it is.
Yeah.
It's very annoying.
Yeah. Cause then it's just like, yo, it's like, it's almost,
Are you going to learn?
yeah, you have to learn on your own, you know?
Yeah.
So then it's just, you know, but that's,
Tough love is good.
tough love is
Overall.
good.
very good.
Overall.
Tough love is the love that, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Tough
I
love
don't
is
like
great.
that coddle stuff.
It's nice every once in a while, you know, but not, I don't know.
No.
I just want people to keep it real with
Breakfast
me.
of nails. No milk.
Yeah. That's aggressive.
No fork, just hands.
I even told my professors, because a few of them like bought the book. Obviously, you know, they groomed me as journalists or whatever, and I was just like, if you see something that you don't like, I told all my friends, I was like, don't tell me you love this book unless you really do. I
Right.
was like, but if there's something that you're just like, I don't like how that flowed, like tell me, because if I do choose to read another book in the future, like
You know.
I know maybe I'll take that, or maybe I'll be like, okay, that's your perspective, just like you said. But because art, again, it's your art. But
subjective.
if there's something that's just like I can change, let me know.
Yeah.
Because like how otherwise you're gonna grow, you know? So that's how I'm viewing it. I'm at a very peaceful state now, and I talk to Andy about this all the time. But I'm like, it took me a very long time to get here, but this book helped me so much, and I just. Even if it just makes one person laugh, or just one person be like, that's crazy, or just one person be like, oh, I can relate, and like I needed to hear that. Even if it's just a friend, like
I know
I'll be like,
someone in specific
win.
who I could have literally give that book to, and it's
I know a couple people.
and it's
I hope they're okay.
it's hard. Like when I hear again, this is my first time technically meeting you, and
And he bought. First of all, can I just call you out? Okay, no, like you made me almost want to cry before. Like this man, like. Bought me roses. I've never met him before. Like, you're a green flag.
Green flag,
You're
you
a
sure?
green flag.
Are you sure?
You should
Like-
drop a second book called Green Flags.
I
you heard it
should,
here
and you're gonna be
first.
on the cover holding
Green
your
flags,
bouquet.
I've listened.
Oh, that
Put
was
me on the
like
front cover right there.
that was like that was. Thank you so much. That
No.
was so sweet of you. Like
The
Honestly.
dedication part of the book to Mateo. On the next one.
the next print run, I'll absolutely do
I would
it.
love that.
Oh, that was.
Look
you're
at that, bro.
so
You just got
There you go.
yourself on a book.
There you go.
Oh.
Yeah. So I have a couple questions. Final questions.
Go for it.
One, I've never said this publicly or live, but I want to write a book one day.
Do it.
I
My eyes just lit up. I'm like,
But again, like I said, I'm not the best writer, so I would need people's help for sure. I wouldn't do it by myself. But I was going to ask you, for anybody who's like in my shoes, where it's like, okay, they want to write a book, whether it's now or like a couple years down the road, what advice can you give to them as far as like, what's the first steps? Like, what do you need to know, like money wise or people wise, or just like, you know, that process?
yeah. So, first of all, I would definitely just encourage you to just start like jotting down kind of your thought process. So, like, what do you think? What genre, first and foremost, is this book? Or what do you want to cover in the book? What's the context of the book going to be? And then definitely do your research. Like I said, there's generally 3 paths you can go: self-publishing, hybrid, or traditional. And some come with monetary investment, others don't. Some come with retaining rights to your book, others don't. So just do your research. If anybody has any questions too, like, feel free to like reach out to me at the Brianna McCabe or whatever. I will always be a resource, but there's plenty of resources out there. But if you just want to hear from somebody who kind of maneuvered that process, you know, so that's where I would say start. And then dependent on which path you peruse, there's different avenues to go. It's kind of like these branches with different sub branches.
Got
so,
you.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay. So yeah, that was my question as far as like anybody out there who wants to write a book. Second one was, and I'm completely drawing a blank now.
No, it's okay.
I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yay,
Unless you want to.
Andy.
No, go for it.
Would you be open into screenwriting, like actual like writing scripts and stuff for movies, like kind of what we do, right?
So that's so funny you say that, because I don't know if I necessarily want to write another. I mean, I'm not going to block blessings, right? If it comes, it comes. Where I would love to maneuver is writing for TV or movies. So I don't know how. I really haven't even started diving down that path, but I say all the time now that Netflix is opening a hub here, I'm like, yo, I want to get into Netflix. I want to write like movies for Netflix. Like, that's absolutely where I want to pivot. Yeah. So
because you said that the book was 120 pages. You said
320, baby.
320. Oh my goodness. So what? They say a feature length is about 90 pages.
A feature length on what?
On shooting film, like.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Like 8.5 by 11s.
Like 100 or 120 pages. Don't quote me. Somewhere within that range.
I know nothing about these books. What I remembered what I was going to say though. When you were talking about rock bottom, there's a quote, I believe it's by J.K. Rowling, where she says, "Rock bottom is the solid foundation of which I built my fortune on." And I feel as a writer, like, you know, maybe you could relate to that.
I definitely. Oh my God, I love that quote. Thank you so much.
I'm pretty sure it's J.K. Rowling.
Don't quote me, no. Oh my God, I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And then I know this is corny, but Andy, I do this all the time. I just want to say thank you. Like, first of all, thank you guys for having me. Like, I'm so honored to be here. You guys are dope. Meeting you guys was great. Thank you so much for the roses.
No problem.
But Andy, I just want to say, Andy's been with me. It's just beautiful having friends who like believe in you. Like, and I'm sure you guys can attest to that too. Cause I said, I'm writing a book. And Andy, my friend Kareem, they were just like, we got you. Like, whatever you need, like, we got you. We'll work together. And it's just like, thank you for believing in me. And like, I don't know where I would be if it wasn't for like you and other friends in my corner. Every time I look at Andy, I get emotional. I don't know why. I'm gonna start crying, but like, oh my God, thank you so much. I love you so much. So
I love you too, Brie.
yeah.
Round of applause for Andy there.
Yeah.
Nah, it's always love.
Andy makes me cry. I don't know why. I look at his sweet little face and I'm like, oh my God.
Nah, you know, we're very supportive. We're always gonna have your back. I'm glad you met my sideways
Thank
team
you
here
for
too.
plugging me. Yo,
He's
I
been
love you
talking
guys.
about you. You have no idea.
Man,
He talks
listen.
about you all the time.
Aw,
just
I do
like
it
you
too.
talk about him. Y'all each other's hype people. That's dope. That's how
As it should be too.
As
You
it
know,
should be,
as it
for
should
real.
be. Like, just
support each other.
And I
for real.
really love you guys too. Like, I hope we can all collaborate in the future.
That's
Like,
the goal.
I really, you guys are immaculate vibes. Like, I
thank
love
you.
you guys so much, and I just met you. So
well, we're taking pictures of your book after this.
Yep.
yeah, you are
That is
Get to
happening.
work.
with my little rose.
There you go.
Okay, so I think that's it, guys. Thank you for tuning in.
At yourself. You
Yeah,
could-
at yourself.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
at the
it's your camera.
Brianna, BRI.
Hold the book, hold the book.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Sorry.
Well, the
This-
book.
this is
Where,
your- this is your
when
moment
does it
to plug
drop?
you.
Where can they find it? How much does it cost? Like,
So it's $29.95, baby. Hardcover,
That's-
all color interior. Oh, I'm gonna
Ooh.
plug. Wait, you want to see my favorite page?
Let me see.
Andy took this.
wait, put it at that
Yo.
camera.
Andy took this
Nice.
photo. It's supposed to be like a dating profile. It's so sexy.
love
Andy,
it.
shout out to you. And I don't even know if I told you guys. Tracy Morgan endorsed the back of the book.
Oh, that's fire.
So fire.
What did Tracy say? Wait, let me read it.
Yeah. Oh, it's so
plug
cute.
this
Boy,
in.
Tracy.
All right, guys. So the red flags I've repeatedly ignored by Brianna McCabe there. Tracy Morgan actually said, this book is entertaining, witty, shocking, and thought-provoking. I know Brianna is the real deal and wants to help others because there are many lessons as there are laughs.
There you go.
That's legit.
Yo, that's so legit.
That's legit.
Very legit.
He's the
This
best.
is my copy.
I mean, if you want it.
No, I'll buy the book. I'll support it, of course.
Oh, you're so sweet.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
so you can find me. My website's thebriannamccabe.com/book drop at the Brianna McCabe. DM me, hit me up. I'm on TikTok. I got a podcast called The Red Room. So, tune in. Oh, you guys should come on my podcast.
I'm down.
Fire.
Let me
Okay,
talk about
cool.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Michael Myers, hit her up. This has been another episode of Illumin. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please subscribe, like, a comment. We are giving a book away.
Oh, yes.
So I forget what we said we were going to.
Emojis.
Emojis,
Yeah.
red
Red
flags
flag
if you want a book.
Yeah, then we'll just randomize it.
And catch you guys next week.
Next one.
Peace.
We'll loom out.